Let's go to the mountains. Well, getting ready to go to the Derby Canyon retreat. Wanted to show you guys a few things to keep in mind, or items that I bring and get prepared. So you can see it's been quite a while. The trailer's still full of leaves, but got the snowmobile strapped in, getting my gear ready, and I'm going to show you guys what I bring for just a overnight or weekend retreat up there when I'm going solo up to the cabin. One of the things that's kind of cool and fun, you know, this time of year, it's the beginning of February. I can only get to the Derby Canyon cabin on snowmobile, and really anywhere up there. It's probably 2, 3, 4 feet of snow right now. To bring my gear, obviously I can strap a little bit to the sled itself, but I'm bringing, you know, water. I'll likely be harvesting firewood on the way up, especially if there's down trees across the road, which there were 5 last year when I got up there for the first time. I got myself not a skidoo sled, but an actual sled. So this is just a little utility sled. I don't know what the heck it's called, but you know, it's probably about 4 feet, 3.5 feet long. I found this on Amazon. It's like a hitch setup where I'm just going to be attaching this to the tail of the skidoo itself, putting things like my chainsaw. You know, I bring a come along and a strap just in case I ever tip the sled and need to get it right when I can't by myself. Things like my water jug, really heavy items that I don't want to necessarily weigh down the actual back of the sled itself. I also have a box that I use that will strap right here and keep all of my main essentials. Items like my clothing bag, which has also other gear in it. Items like the food for that trip. You know, shovels, other things, but I'll show you guys that in a minute as well. But yeah, this guy gets strapped into the trailer, gets tied down so it's not going to go anywhere. And the rest will ride in the truck and the truck bed itself. And I'll show you what else we bring so we can be prepared for a solo trip. Where we access the cabin via snowmobile only. All right, I want to give you guys a little bit better of an idea of exactly what I do to prep the night before heading up to the Derby Canyon. You know, as a reminder, and as you saw, I can only get there by snowmobile. So let me go through some of the stuff that I bring and considerations and just being self-reliant, prepared. First and foremost, since I love you guys so much, this is my YouTube recording kit. I've got everything from spare batteries, lights, tripods, all the gear that I need to do videos and hopefully continue to make my videos higher quality and even better and better. So this is an added item, a little extra weight, but hopefully it'll be worth it. Now, as far as the gear for the snowmobile, I have my helmet, which is super important, and someday I'll tell you guys a little bit about that as far as my personal experience and all that. I have a collapsible shovel, which is very, very helpful. This is something I'll strap on top to my other gear. It expands. It's aluminum, very, very lightweight and very functional. I've got a come along. I've got straps. I've got extra I've got extra oil for the snowmobile itself. Bungee cords so that I can strap everything appropriately to the snowmobile, and ratchet straps and a few other things. So everything in this box I'll either be wearing or using to strap and tie things down to the snowmobile and be prepared that way. Always have snowshoes in an emergency. If I can't use my snowmobile for whatever reason, this Derby Canyon retreat this time of year probably has about 3 feet of snow. Very powdery. I'll be the only human up there. And so if I have to pack out, I need to make sure I have a way to walk, and these are for that exact purpose. Now, this is the box that I strap to the snowmobile itself. So this will set on that back deck on the snowmobile up there right behind me. I really like the way that these clamp down. You're never going to lose that lid, not that you would anyway, because it'll be tied down with ratchet straps anyway. But here I have everything from a handsaw, just in case there's little branches that are much easier that I don't need the chainsaw for. Long battery life, high power adjustable headlamp. Tie down cable for the actual gear that I'll be strapping to the box. Some good quality, they're warm gloves, but you know, I can still use the controls, not too thick like you know, snowboard gloves or anything like that, but still very warm. My clothes and other items, so I have things like my charging cables, my clothes that are more than enough, spare pairs of everything in case I get wet more than once on the trip. You know, some medicine and things like that in case of emergency, backup socks, like 5 pairs of socks, that kind of a thing. And then also, you know, these are usually just one-night trips, maybe 2-night trips at the most when I'm going up there on the snowmobile. This is my cooler. It's not a super, you know, high quality, keep it cold forever, but for a one-night trip, this is perfectly fine. I can fit all the food that I need to keep cool in here. And of course, it's branded with the best football team in the world. And then a few other little items like this is the 2-stroke fuel that I was talking about. I shouldn't need any more than that for a trip of this nature. Well, that was a little disappointing. That was my new drone, and it lasted 3.5 minutes before the battery died. I was really hoping it'd have a better battery life than that, so we're just going to go with the standard tripod. All right, so I hope you guys heard to this point, but the other things or remaining things in here is my 2-stroke fuel. You saw before I mixed it up in the 1 gallon. I also am keeping the 2 gallon in the truck bed just to have backup with me, because why not in the truck? But this is the only thing that'll go up the mountain with me. We have a full tank in the chainsaw itself, and this for backup. You know, usually the tank in the chainsaw is enough, but you know, if I have 5 trees, that'll come in really handy and will be a necessity. So this is the thing that I'm going to be strapping to the snowmobile right behind me. These are kind of my most essential items: food, clothes, etc., etc., and gloves, straps, etc. So the other items that'll be going along with me, so this is the water that I'll be bringing with me. This is a 5-gallon jug. 5 gallons is excessive, at least for the trip up there, so I fill this to about 2. You know, the thing that's super cool about this is not only is it pressurized, it's got a hand pump so that when you turn this, you know, the water comes out with pressure. It also has an inline filter. In theory, you can put any water in this and make it safe drinking water. So I can melt snow up there, you know, which is really easy to boil since you're already melting it on the wood stove. But if I had a stream I came across, if I'm using my well, which is the first year I have the well, so now basically I'm planning to top this off on my way up. The well's on my lower lot. The lower lot's only about half a mile from the cabin, whereas the entire snowmobile ride is closer to 5 miles. So I'd rather not carry 40 gallons, give or take, of water if this was full. I'm just keeping this at about 2 gallons just so I have water for emergency situations before I get there, and this will go in the sled that I pull behind the snowmobile. So we've also got a 5-gallon tank of fuel. I always keep extra fuel. On the way out, I always fill my truck up so I have close to a full tank by the time I get there. Having backup fuel is just an extra, you know, precaution. If you ever get stranded, if you're maybe relying on the engine for heat at night, just not a bad idea to have an extra 5 gallons with you. Obviously, we've got the chainsaw, so that also will go with me on the snowmobile. That's probably something I'll put in the sled that I pull behind. As I've mentioned several times, the 1 year that I got, or last year, when I finally got up there and got to the cabin, I had to cut my way through 5 trees that were down across the road. That's the other way I know for sure I'm the only human that goes up there, at least as far, well, really, that goes up there at all, because it was pretty early in the forest access road that first tree was down. And the very first time I went up there and didn't realize I would need a chainsaw, I had to turn around that night and end up staying in a motel. So sad day. So the other items, and by the way, I always keep this truck stocked with emergency type things. I'm always prepared in case I got, you know, stranded or obviously have to rely on myself. If you guys want to know about all the things I carry, go find my Mountain Essentials video. That'll be in the, Can't remember which playlist it's in. I think that's probably in the how-tos and in the off-roading playlist as well. If I remember, I'll also tag it in this video. But essentially, all this gear that you just went through will go with me on the snowmobile up to the cabin. I also have my tire chains. I keep 4 sets of chains because the lower portion of getting up there is at a low enough altitude that gets warm enough to melt and refreeze. So you have the bad condition of being somewhat icy, having not a ton of like fluffy snow. And so I prefer 4 chains over airing down, although I haven't done a lot of airing down and I might try that a little bit more this season. The other thing, by law, we have to carry chains this time of year when we go over the mountain passes that I take to get there. So it's good to have. And, you know, having 4 chains, I can have a lot of function. I have good steering, and they're not terribly expensive. That set, I'll probably show you if I put them on. They're easy to install. They kind of self-tighten with a little rubber strap that is the last connection. And they have a diamond pattern, which I like because I think it gives me better steering traction versus just straight across, because you always have points of contact, and I just think they're a good set. And these are 35-inch tires. I think those chains were like 100, 120 for 2, which as far as big tire chains go, it's not that bad. This will be the second season with them. We'll see how many seasons I get out of them. A few other quick things. We've got our winch right here. Now, maybe one day I'll upgrade and have a fixed winch, but the thing that's really nice about my setup is I have a receiver on the back of the truck and a receiver on the front of the truck. I have used both depending on my situation, depending on how I'm stuck, depending on what trees are around me. So that's definitely really nice. And again, some of the other gear in here, watch that Mountain Essentials video because I'll go through the entire thing. But the only other things I like to carry are snow shovels. You know, sometimes digging yourself out is quicker and easier than setting up the winch or going to other extremes that way. And at this point, we're going to just get everything in the truck that needs to go in the truck, be completely ready to go first thing in the morning, and I will see you guys out in the Derby Canyon. So I've been overthinking this. I'm still trying to figure out some of the best like systems and routines and everything. And obviously I got to take a chainsaw up to the mountain. You know, the first time I went up to Derby Canyon last year when I got the snowmobile, I got turned away because there's a downed tree, and I'm talking about, you know, a very significant tree, and I could not get past it because it was across the entire road. When I finally got, you know, I brought my chainsaw the next time, there was 5 trees down because no one, as literally besides me, goes up there in the wintertime. So right now I'm getting prepped with fuel. I've been overthinking this whole thing because this little container is meant for 2-stroke, but I don't know. It would make sense to me. It should have a line of where the oil should be because it's got the 20-to-1 ratio, 40-to-1, and so forth. But the 40-to-1, there's a line here. There's no way that's right, because this little guy is meant to be 1 gallon of fuel with this entire container. This is the bigger container I like to use for my 2-stroke. But it's 2 gallons. And I've got this, which I don't use because it doesn't have a cap, and I don't want to let fuel just evaporate all day and lose it. And I've been trying to figure out, well, how do I mix it? How do I make sure it's right? Well, I'm just going to use this as my mixing can, put a gallon of fuel in there, put the entire thing of the oil, and that way we'll have 1 gallon to that container and should be good to go there. And then the other thing, last year, you know, I have a sled. I have myself. I'm 200 pounds. I have a box that's on the sled. And when I say a sled, you guys saw that little black one that I'm pulling behind me. So that'll be attached to the back of my snowmobile. The snowmobile will also have a box on it, plus me. It gave me overheating warnings a couple times last year, so I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious with weight. Obviously, I'll be bringing water and all that, which is what this guy is for. But instead of bringing 5 full gallons, because, you know, water is 8 pounds a gallon, so 5, that's pretty significant, and I don't need 5 gallons from the start. I basically just filled this to about 2 gallons. This is my emergency water, so if I were to get stranded, I'd have 2 gallons of water. Once I'm at the cabin, I can harvest snow. Also, now we have the well, which I didn't have before, so my plan is to fill this with well water. So instead of going 5 miles on the snowmobile with 5 gallons, I can just go the last half mile from the lower lot up to the cabin. So, yeah, getting ready, getting the truck all packed and ready to go. And I'll just take you guys through the full gear, but I'm sitting here trying to figure out how am I going to make sure the ratio is right and 2 gallon and this stupid thing. But fill this with a gallon, put the 2 put the entire container in there so we know that our ratio is correct for 40-1. And then I'm just going to fill this with the actual fuel just for the trip, because I am not going to need a full gallon or 2 gallons just for my chainsaw. This is more than enough for a single trip up there, not to mention the fuel that's already in it. So last year I had 2 gallons of fuel, I had full water, other things that were probably unnecessary, and now getting a little more conscious with weight. We're paring it down and getting better systems. And now, again, this is the first time I'm going up there this year. I should have been up there a few times before, but getting stuff dialed in, and you guys can learn from me along the way, and so you don't have to make the same mistakes I've been making. All right, guys, super excited. It's the morning of. It's about 7 a.m. Heading out to the Derby Canyon. Just checking all my tie downs and straps. We got the Ski-Doo on the utility trailer. 4 strap points. Lights are working. Everything's looking good. So from here, I'm going to be going to Cle Elum. They have the cheapest gas in the state, and that definitely adds up with all these trips that I go to, and they're smart for this because I go to the Safeway and I buy my groceries for the trip. So win-win for both of us. Cheap gas, groceries, and they get my business every time. That's just good business. Anyway, can't wait to see you guys on the other side of the mountains. We're here at the first stop at Cle Elum. Got a full tank of gas in the truck, got a full tank of gas in the snowmobile, and a full 5-gallon for emergency backup. This is the cheapest gas in the state I'm aware of. It's like $1 cheaper than where I live. Part of that's county taxes, but part of it is I think they're literally trying to attract people like me so they come to the Safeway, and hey, it's a win-win for both of us as far as I'm concerned. So this is basically a 2-day trip, just a 1-night overnighter, and some of the stuff that I'm buying I wouldn't normally buy for normally groceries, but having convenience and stability for the food and that kind of thing is obviously important for the way I'm transporting it. Have a very small cooler, that kind of thing. So tomorrow's breakfast will be egg whites. Normally I'd get the full eggs, but they were sold out, meaning the egg beaters, it's whites and yolks. They were sold out of that, so this will be plenty good. The other thing is getting a lot of protein is important for me, especially with my workout routine. There is 50 grams of protein in this container. Not that I'd eat all this at once, but very, very convenient. Packing eggs would be logistically a challenge, so I love these. For dinner tonight, not doing a steak tonight. You guys will see on Off-Grid Cooking, I'm just going to make a Polish kielbasa. I'll chop it up into smaller pieces so we can get a lot of nice caramelization and surface area on that. And for sides with that tonight, I'm going to do some, I think it's crimini mushrooms, rainbow carrots, and in case I'm hungry enough, I bought some Gouda slices. Just throwing this on just the cast iron and letting them cook, it makes like a crisp cheese, and I love doing that. It's delicious and easy and a side snack. Also lemons, I'm going to use this for basically flavor with the carrots, but also putting it in my water as just an additive. The other thing is they have these buy one get one melons. Normally I'm not the kind of guy that's going to buy a pre-processed food or something that's cut or pay labor for someone to do that. Plus obviously it affects freshness, but for the convenience, for the buy one get one free, and just having it completely readily available, this is a great fit for me. Also, I have found pineapple is great on these trips because having the electrolytes that come in them helps me avoid muscle cramps, which has been a problem in the past, and just a really great thing to have on the go. And then one other thing for trail, beef jerky. It's just super easy. It doesn't need refrigeration. It's something I can grab and eat at any point in time. So that will be for dinner and breakfast tomorrow, and I'll also save part of that kielbasa sausage for breakfast, so I'll have a little portion of that sausage with those eggs, and that should be a great breakfast. And the other 2 things I got, because it was buy one get one free, a melody of this stuff, so that'll be part of my lunch, and then a pre-made sandwich with the pretzel bun. These are delicious and also just a really easy thing to eat. So that'll just go in the main box. That'll be available whenever I want it. This will go in the cab, and now at this point we're just ready to go head to the county road. This is going to be my last stop before I get there, so the next thing you'll see is me parking the truck. I'll probably put the chains on, we'll see what the conditions are like, and then unloading the snowmobile and putting everything in the sled behind the snowmobile and heading up from there. So I guess this is the last stop, and see you on the flip side. Well, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be like closer to the Derby Canyon, but little surprised at the snow levels. I mean, I know it's been a warm winter and everything, but I thought a storm or two came through that would dump around here. Not looking super high on snow levels, but my property is definitely at a higher elevation. The only thing that poses a challenge, I mean, it's the first week of February. I definitely think there's going to be plenty of snow for the snowmobile, but there's definitely times of year where there's icy conditions and it's tough for me to get high enough with the truck in order to have enough snow for the snowmobile. Again, I'm not anticipating that today, but it's definitely not the kind of snowpack that we're used to seeing this time of year. So I still have, I don't know, about half an hour to go. We'll see what it's like in the Derby Canyon and as I approach it, but this really might be one of those times where I'm busting out the chains and trying to get as far as I can to try to get to more powdery conditions for the snowmobile. If you're not familiar with snowmobiles, at least my model, and I think most all, use the snow to cool them. So you don't really want to run them dry. Obviously there's other challenges. You don't want to damage your skids and stuff like that, but hopefully we'll be able to not have too much driving to get to snowy, powdery areas. In a perfect world, I like to there's a spot that's only like a half a mile off of the county road where I can pull over in a safe place to unload and stay for the night as far as parking the truck. But man, if the levels are high enough, that's not going to be good enough for the snowmobile. So we'll have to see as we get closer. I am pulling up to the county road of Derby Canyon Retreat to do the forest access road, and man, I am shocked at these snow levels. Again, I've only been out here, this is only my second season owning this property, but I know what it was like last year, and I know last year was pretty much average. It is the first week of February, and there is what I would consider little to no snow. Man. Again, I know it's been a warm winter. I know snowpack has not been normal, but this is quite concerning. And I'm not talking about myself and my day today. I'm talking about snowpack's important for a lot of reasons. And I don't know if this means we're going to have more storms later in the year. I don't know if this means we're going to have a really tough time with droughts and other things in the summer. But it's not looking awesome right now. Again, who knows if this will be good or bad in the big picture, but definitely seems like it's concerning compared to normal. It's taking a toll on me, trying my best to keep from tearing the skin off my bones. Don't you know how you this is much better looking as far as having the potential to use the snowmobile when I want. Now granted, it's still low levels. I can actually see down to the dirt in places where in a normal year, this time of year, I definitely wouldn't. But hopefully, get around this corner, we've got a good amount of snow. I don't like to go so far that I get stuck. I'd rather just park where I know I can, keep my momentum, because I got a trailer and I do not have my chains on yet. I'm in 4 high, full tire pressure. But I think I can go to my normal spot, park, not even worry about the chains on this trip, unload the snowmobile, and be on the way. I'm gonna go ahead and commit. Come on, let's go, go. Ah, dang it. Well, this is good enough. So, this is just about a quarter mile or so off the county road. This is at a lower elevation, so it's one of those, it's like crunchy hard ice, which is one of the reasons I get stuck out here fairly often. Now, this is way lower levels than normal. People have been coming through here. That's fairly normal. And my truck looks like it's definitely good enough for me to leave it here for the night. I mean, I'm far enough off the road. That's no problem. What I'll do from here is unload the snowmobile. Hopefully there's enough snow in this immediate area for that. But from here, I'll be dragging my sled and going up to the cabin, which is about roughly 5 miles from here. In a normal day, when I know that my passes are being cleared by myself, I'd probably get everything rearranged. Maybe I'll move the trailer. But honestly, it's a good foot or two off of the tire track. I think I'm probably good as is. So yeah, we're in the Derby Canyon, and now it's time to get unloaded. All right, so you want to let the snowmobile warm up a bit. It took a few more pulls than I expected, but no big deal. If you notice, I unlocked my pin, so that trailer is designed to pivot around a central pin. So what I'm gonna be able to do is put this in reverse. The trailer will tilt down, I'll run it right off, it'll be good. I use a locking pin for security, so I unlocked it, pulled that. Now I just want the engine to warm up a little bit more, and I will be using my helmet because, as I've alluded to in this video and a few others, I had a pretty significant accident when I was very inexperienced, and that day I did not have a helmet on. I'm not the kind of guy that thinks it's cool not to have a helmet. I just literally, it was my first time on a snowmobile. I wasn't thinking about that aspect. In retrospect, it's really dumb. But the only way I can kind of justify to myself, not saying it's okay, but growing up, skidoos were always jet skis on the water. You know, with those, we just wear a life jacket. So I never really thought about a helmet. I was out here, I was actually up at the cabin. I was trying to get a feel for it. I was trying to push it to understand how it handles and all that stuff. And I just literally hit a tree without a helmet on. So that's why I have so many significant injuries to my face. My elbow has been replaced, and I have a new tooth and several other fillings and that kind of thing. So now every single time I step foot on it, I wear my helmet, even if it's something simple like loading or unloading. All right, so at this point, I'm just gonna load up the gear, putting my heaviest stuff in the sled that I'm towing behind the snowmobile and the rest on the back. So I'll get all packed up, including you guys. You're coming with me, and then we'll head on up and get some more footage along the way. All right, I got everything loaded up and ready to go. The truck will spend the night here. It's all locked up, tailgate and all. Let me triple check that. The other thing that's kind of cool is, if you haven't seen the other video yet, my truck is solar powered. That was a DIY project because I got stranded. Well, I almost got stranded up here last year. And so the cool thing is that just trickle charges the battery the entire time. You know, obviously it's winter, it's not super sunny and all that kind of thing, but that will definitely add a trickle charge effect to the battery while I'm gone, which is just a tiny little side bonus. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's in the how-to playlist on the channel. Now I actually completely changed my strategy on what's going where. Slightly influenced by the fact that I have different gear now. I also have been intentionally trying to get lighter and lighter. And the other thing to consider is stuff that's in the sled will get snow all over it. So things like my backpack and soft bag, spare pair of shoes, chainsaw, don't really want that stuff getting covered in snow. So I'm gonna put it up there. Also, I'm trying to put the heaviest things in the sled so that it's just sitting on the snow, on the snow, and not having the track support it and weighing down the snowmobile itself. So now we'll just head up the 5-mile road, head to the cabin, and see what the snow's like up there. The other thing is, if you're not familiar with snowmobiles, and I learned this myself the hard way, or not really the hard way, just I didn't know this was a thing until someone mentioned it, is on days like this, where it's a little bit icy and not super powdery, they have these scrapers which help. So it's literally just a spring mounted or loaded scraper that scrapes the snow, because again, snowmobiles use the snow to cool themselves, and I need to make sure that in this icy portion they're actually getting some snow to help it cool. So if you're in these kinds of conditions, make sure that's engaged. So here we go. You guys see those tracks? Not quite sure what they are, but they got 4 fingers. Alright, I gotta show you guys this. I don't know how well you could see that without so deer, some kind of chase up the hill. But dude, look, this is my hand. This is obviously older, but it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 to me. I don't know if I can find any better. Look, that's my hand. Can you guys see that? Definitely a chase. Seems like chasing a deer. Ran off out this way. Also, I'm still brand new to snowmobiling. If you vets out there are going to blow me up in the comments, why don't you just let me know things I can do better or different. You know, I know how to ride a motorcycle, but pavement and snow handle way different. And if I'm doing stuff that's just like rookie mistakes or things that I obviously shouldn't be, let me know, because I'm trying to learn just as much as I'm trying to teach. Well, we're here. This is my property, the lower lot. So I actually have two different lots out here. The lower lot is where the bio house and the well house are. That gate that you just watched me pass, last time that I was here this time of year, the snow was at or above the gate level. The other thing that's kind of interesting is my snowmobile is overheating. It did this last year several times where it'll just start to give me a warning and I'll stop. I'm assuming it's because I have it so weighed down. Probably going to take it to the mechanic because it does an overheat after a long-ish run. And it also says the parking brake's engaged when it's not. God, it's so beautiful out here. If you guys are ever looking for a place to stay or camp out in Washington, not this time of year, but in the spring and summer and early fall, I rent it out so you guys can come out here. And this is why we don't put that stuff right here. The thing I was going to mention is this was definitely one of the easiest runs up here. You know, there's hardly any snow. I was thinking about it on the ride up. Like I keep saying, you know, I got hurt on November 11th. Then I didn't come back up until that following February. So around this time last year, when I came up and finally made it all the way up, I had to get through 5 trees, 3 of which were like 2 feet in diameter. You know, I'm thinking that it must just be because there was so many more storms. I mean, there was a lot more snow, which in my mind means more storms came through. You know, all those trees are dead standing wood that just fell down. And so I'm assuming it's just from really windy and bad conditions that way. So I'm assuming it's just because we haven't really had all those winds, all those storms, that kind of a thing. Again, last time I was here this time of year, the snow was at the top of that fence. So that's how different the snow levels are right now. In this property right here, I think we're at about 2,600 feet. The cabin's at 2,700. That's the well house. And I'm shocked there's a little snow up there because the panels warm up and usually melt it all down. And that's the outhouse, which again, this is not a very heavy snow year. So I'm not surprised that it's shed the snow, but I was really concerned that after looking at it, that I didn't build a high enough pitch on that roof and that I would get so much snow accumulation that it could cause structural damage. Because I actually changed the design while I was building it because 12 feet wide made more sense than 10, but I didn't adjust the height of or the pitch, which I thought might hurt me. And honestly, in the future years, it might. This year though, it looks like it's shedding everything. That roof is a plastic roof. Because that's the anaerobic digestion tank side, which I want to get passive solar gain. So I built it to be like a greenhouse, literally greenhouse effect, you know. It's not finished, but when it is, I'm gonna finish this off with plastic so that it keeps the smell out and the heat in. That's the tank. It gets filled with water and stuff and is where the anaerobic digestion process happens. So that's where the human waste goes. That's where food scraps go. Anaerobic digestion process is basically just starving organic matter of oxygen, and it produces methane and fertilizer as a byproduct. That methane over to a little burner, which we can then use to, like, you know, make coffee, cook meals. And the whole point of me building this structure, in addition to having an outhouse, which this room will obviously get a door and be a private toilet outhouse. And then this is gonna be a kitchenette. So that's my live edge countertop that I'll mount and put the burner on top of. So the idea is you have this space to be a kitchenette. I'll have a water tank in here and do rainwater collection. Look at all that condensation. And then it's all just open here. This will be finished off with a door. This will all get plastic so that it's really airtight as best I can make it, so that it doesn't stink, and so that it keeps more heat in using this greenhouse effect. That's my holding water tank that will go over here above. That's also what we will use to flush that toilet. So that's my first project in the spring out here, is to get that up and running so I can see if that product works as good as I hope it does. And if it does, I'll continue to use it in other applications on other properties, and probably at my cabin. Look at this. Those don't look like human footprints, do they? No, that's an animal. Coming right through the property. Right up there. Check all this out, man. This place is so gorgeous. Now that is my outhouse. It has both solar power and wind power. I don't know if the wind is all that helpful or not, but the idea was when we have super dark, super stormy days, like were last year, obviously, when the trees are coming down, that might be the source that will cause it to, you know, charge when it's dark and not getting a lot of sunlight. That's also my camera that I use to try to check on the conditions so I can see how much snow falls here. I was wondering if that panel was covered with snow, because that battery keeps dying and I keep losing access to it at home. It uses a SIM card so I can log in and check it. It doesn't record or anything like that. But I'm thinking that I might, instead of using that tiny little solar panel, is wire that to my bigger battery bank. In another video, I built this little battery insulation box because this whole thing is just open air. That's going to be an outdoor shower, by the way. That's the hose for the well itself. And this thing is going to, or has heat pads and the two batteries in it. And I did an insulation box along with the heat pads so that the batteries don't freeze, because I realized after I built this and did a little extra research that batteries freezing is not great. And that was my solution. And I hope it helps keep a long life. A bit overkill for this. This inverter is a little bit overkill. The other thing that I learned after I had all this stuff installed, and by the way, it looks like the batteries are 100% full, which makes total sense because there's no draw on them. Another thing I learned after I had all this installed by a professional pump guy is that they make DC pumps. And I wish he would have told me that when I had him install these, because an inverter is expensive. It also is a component that will fail, and it'll probably be the first component to fail. And so I really could have just had batteries and a pump with a charge controller and the panels, which would have been a simpler, more reliable, cheaper system. So now I know that. So in the future, that's what we'll do. But the one benefit of having this inverter, which by the way, let's fire it up, is now we have AC power down here in 3,000 watts, which is certainly respectable. And so this campsite rental down here, I'm going to have one just campsite, one camper, which is over there in the distance, that I'm going to kind of do a little landscaping around and make a more formal site. And then over there, we're going to do a separate campsite where everybody will have access to the well for water. Everybody will have access to the outhouse for the obvious. And then, a private place where people bring their own gear, set up camp here that's super accessible. The camper that's available for rental, where you could set up, if you have a vehicle that you sleep in or a tent, and then, someone use the camper as well. And then a second private spot there. So all three campsites will be relatively private and have access to water and toilet. And then in a pinch, I could run. Well, most people that come out here have their own power and their own solutions to this stuff, but they could use this as a way to charge phones and other things. I personally can use it for like power tools. Again, 3,000 watts is pretty good. So it's a little bit overkill for what we're doing here, but I wanted to make sure that I always had water, that the pump had plenty. And, You know, the only thing I'm not sure about is if there's downsides or problems with running the well in these winter months. Now, it's not terribly cold up here right now. I don't know what it is, but I don't even feel like it's probably like barely 30 degrees. But I'm planning to fill my canteen with this water. That's probably the next thing I'll do right now. That water smells like rotten eggs, which, what is that? That's not methane. You guys, it's not. Remind me what that is. You know what I'm talking about. And the other thing I'm going to do early on this next year is test that water, because I'm not sure if it's drinkable as is. The canteen that I have has a filter built into it, and it's supposed to filter pretty much anything and everything. So I'm just going to fill this with that water, and then I feel comfortable running it through that filter and drinking it that way. But I will run some tests, and I'll make sure that I put the proper signage, because as of now, I'm assuming it is not potable water. And then the other thing about this design for the well house is I built it like this mainly to make sure I had access, because if the snow is, 3 feet taller like it was last year, then even if it's 3 feet taller right here, in theory I can still walk right in, even if it's just 3 feet higher there. And basically this was a shelter to have access to the pump, to protect the pump, to house the solar, to also act as an outdoor shower. That's a little rock floor where the water will just run down and drain out of it, and I thought I just like river rock shower type theme stuff, so that's the idea there. So now we'll get that canteen, we'll fill it up, let that snowmobile cool down a bit. I kind of wanted to check out the camper, but it looks like it's doing okay. If we had 3 or 4 more feet of snow, I was worried that my little temporary roof might fail and it might cause some damage, but right now I think we're fine. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens the rest of this winter. For the health of the region, I hope they get more snow. I'm sure we will. I wonder if it's one of those years where just the snow and everything's just delayed. I don't know. All right, let's go fill the water canteen. Oh, Jesus. All right. I hope it's okay to run the well in the winter when it's cold ground, but we'll see. Ah, it's frozen. Oh, hold on. The pump was off. All right, guys, this is definitely a milestone for me. I am filling my own water supply that I'll use while I'm off grid at my off grid cabin with water from my solar powered well. So this is Self Reliant. This is me. I built the structure. I put up the solar. I paid somebody to drill the well. I own this land. I own this water, if you can own land and water, but obviously this day and age, we look at it that way. Now, the one thing I do want to do, because right now there's probably water in here, it'd be really stupid to leave it there. It could freeze and crack. So I'm going to turn off my power supply. I'm going to open this guy up and let it, oh, this is probably not smart, and let it drain out. Leave it open so that all the water can go back down, and we should be good to go. All right. So we got our water. I drained the well, the head. There shouldn't be anything anywhere near the surface, so let's go load up. You guys coming with me? Let's head to the cabin. The cabin. Woohoo! We made it! Definitely easier than I was expecting for all the reasons we've been over, but we're here, baby. Welcome to the Derby Canyon Cabin. Well, welcome to the cabin. We have a nice propane stove and oven. Runs on one of those 5-pound little tanks. Kitchen area. The water source. This is why it was so important to bring this up. Pantry with food and general supplies. The night stock of firewood. This is what I use for the bedroom. We have bunk beds. Obviously, I just use one. It's a lot more comfortable than it looks, and it's just got one of those foam style mattresses. We also have a loft. So if we had more people that wanted to stay over, sorry about that. It was about to hit the clothesline. This is a good space for a king-size mattress. It's obviously just for sleeping, but it's got a good amount of room. I would put a king-size air mattress up here if we had guests over, that kind of a thing. Nice. Obviously, we heat with a wood stove. Sure you've seen that in other videos. Lovely old nasty couch. And this is the bathroom storage area. Right now, I just have a cassette toilet. But if that outhouse, biohouse toilet works, I'm going to install something like that up here too. A couple lessons that I learned today. Water is heavy. Those 5 gallons weigh roughly 40 pounds. I definitely have a goal of doing a water catchment system here next year, and I think I need to make that a priority. I mean, it shouldn't take, I've got half the system built already, so it shouldn't be hard to complete. But I don't think bringing water up from the well is the best thing just because it's so darn heavy. And the sled struggled a little bit getting up the hill. I just stopped and adjust a little bit, but not a huge deal. So packing as light as I can. Having rainwater catchment here where we can just have our own water up here, not have to haul it, would be great. And one other thing, I definitely built my wood shed. Actually, come with me. What do you guys think? Were those tracks a cougar? It's most likely from what I'm seeing, and it makes sense for this area, I think. You know, one thing I don't talk a lot about, and frankly, I don't even know what YouTube's rules or guidelines or whatever is, but the other thing I always carry when I'm up here is a pew pew. Definitely keep that on my hip. Bear spray is not a bad idea. Bear spray can be a non-lethal deterrent. Plus, I'm not ignorant enough to think that 9 rounds of 9mm is going to stop a bear. The idea would be to deter or slow down, or if I had a bunch of perfect shots, stop, but that's not something that I'm going to risk or depend on all the way. So if I'm going out on a hike or something like that, I'm going to carry bear spray and the thing on my hip. Usually I have my dog with me, but this time of year when I'm taking the snowmobile up here, I can't bring Ellie because I'm not going to put her in that sled. That doesn't really work. She can't follow me on the snowmobile. It's too far for her. It's too deep of snow and all that. So if I come up on snowmobile, I'm 100% solo. And so self-protection, especially with those tracks that we saw, not just those tracks, but there was at least 3, if not 4 engagements with animals. So, I think there's active cougar in here. I think that's obviously reasonable to assume anyway, but those tracks are further evidence. So, I think that's what we got. And that's why you also got to keep your head on a swivel because, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. What I understand about cougar is that they study their prey. And so the one thing you got to be careful about is like, if there's a trail where there's similar activity constantly, like a running trail or hiking trail, the cougar will study that. They'll know that people are there. They know that people are, maybe certain times of day or whatever the case. And so that's, something you got to be aware of, something you got to be mindful of. Not terribly worried about it when I'm on a snowmobile. I don't think that they're going to ever try to, attack me while I'm on a snowmobile or anything like that. But they're out here. You got to be careful. You got to be smart. And as always, you got to be self-reliant. Thanks for joining me on the off-grid Derby Canyon adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for me. That was my first trip up of the season. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch part 2. That's just the beginning. There's going to be more from that evening, and catch me on the ride back down. So subscribe, build a community along with me, and I'll see you soon. My mission is self-reliance through sustainable living, and we're here to build a community. Click here to subscribe to be sure to get more awesome content for living off the land. And be sure to go in to enter for notifications. Click that bell, get notifications, and stay in tune. Subscribe, watch, and comment. Let's build a community. See you soon.